A young rabbi arrived in an East European town, eager to serve his new congregation. During the first day, he was given a tour of the town by one of the city's leaders. Eventually, they came to the Jewish cemetery, where, as was the custom, all of his rabbinic predecessors were buried in a common section. As they passed by the gravestones, something began to become frighteningly clear: the ages on the stones. The life of one rabbi was 34 years, another 28, another a mere 23. In fact, there was no one who had survived past 40. As he began to realize this, the new rabbi started sweating. He began to believe the community must have been so difficult it was killing off its rabbis. His guide, sensing the young rabbi's growing panic and fearing he might leave the new congregation, said, "Let me explain something to you. Then make your choice about leaving or staying." You see, the dates on the gravestones are not the number of years these people lived. They are instead the number of years they truly lived their lives. You see, in our community, we have a custom that every person keeps a journal, a personal diary, and at the end of each day, they write down how much of that day was devoted to God, not just through prayer or study, but how much of their day was spent living a life of gratitude and not regret, the number of hours living closest to their highest selves, the amount of time reaching out to those in need, and living what is truly important. At the end of the person's life, we add up all the hours in the notebook, and that's the number we put on the headstone. So this one over here, he lived to be 94, not 38 that was engraved there. And on another stone, he said, this rabbi over here, he was on earth for 83 years, not 34. If we were to count our years in such a manner, measuring the moments that we gave thanks and lived closest to our highest selves, how many of our years would we apportion? Would we deem ourselves a 100 or a mere 20? Would our tally be counted in years or mere days? When we are remembered, how many moments would be counted as if they were penned in such a diary? You see, my friends, this day of Yom Kippur thrusts us into confrontation with our mortality. How do we live our lives? How many moments count as meaningful in each day? Traditionally, on this Day of Atonement, Jews deny the body by fasting, abstain from physical intimacy, refrain from perfumes, do not wear our most fashionable clothes, remove our jewelry, leave behind our polished haute couture shoes, and we wear instead a kittel, a simple garment, which is also the shroud of the deceased. Later today, we will leave the Ark, the Aron HaKodesh, open for people to come and pray and speak. And the coffin in which people are buried is called by the same name, Aron. But our coming close to the Ark and moving close to considerations of death, this strips away all pretense. Yom Kippur forces us to see who we really are. Yom Kippur is a day we must seriously confront the question, how can we live a life without regret? A Russian short story portrays an aristocrat who has only a few days to live. When he replays the story of his life in his mind, he realizes he's wasted most of his life. He was focused on the pursuit of wealth and power and not a life filled with real meaning. Though too late and too desperate to rewind and rewrite, it is not too late for us. Today is the day we replay our life story in order to contemplate how we will spend our precious time ahead. The rabbi said, change for the good one day before you die. Rabbi Herschel Jaffe, known as a running rabbi before he developed a strange and unusual form of cancer, wrote, we never know when that is, so we can see each day as an opportunity to measure the quality of our lives. We can become ever more conscious and intentional about how we spend our time. Each day, you see, my friends, is a gift. That's why they call it the present. A nurse named Bronnie Ware devoted herself to working in hospice care in Australia. She experienced working with patients who were dying firsthand And from her experiences, she wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. She asked the patients entrusted to her care if they had any regrets about their lives. What might they change? Had they the chance, the knowledge, the wisdom, the foresight? These are the themes that emerged. The most common regret of all was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not what others expected of me. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it's easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. Have we honored the dreams we made, the hopes we cherish? Might we approach death one day feeling unfulfilled? Knowing that death is on the horizon brings a freedom to make new choices very few realize. Now, just about every male patient Bronnie nursed regretted spending so much of the time on a treadmill of a work existence. So common, they said, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. How many of their children's games and plays and concerts had they missed? How much time was taken away from their loved ones' companionship? Women also articulated this regret, though in that generation, they had not been the primary breadwinners. Many told their nurse, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. So often people settled for peace at any price and left things unsaid. They never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Many harbored resentments and bitterness and felt stifled in their lives. I knew a man who was losing his father, who only right before he died finally said to his son, I love you. It was the first and only time the adult child had ever heard his dying father speak these words. Can you imagine mourning a parent who had never spoken those 3 simple words? From this generation of parents before Facebook and Snapchat, they wouldn't truly realize the full benefits of old friends until their dying weeks. By that time, it was not always possible to track them down. Many had become so caught up in their own lives that they let their golden friendships slip away through the years. There were many deep regrets about not giving friendship the time and effort it deserved. Everyone missed their friends when they were dying. And the final concern came as a surprise. I wish I had let myself be happier. Many didn't realize that happiness is a choice. They'd stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. Their familiarity, old grooves and patterns, grew like ivy over their emotions and their physical lives. Fear of change had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content, when deep within they longed to laugh properly and have stillness in their life again. Maureen Jones could teach us all about living a life without regret. She was 92. She was petite, well-poised, and a proud mother-in-law, fully dressed each morning by 8 a.m. with her hair coiffed and makeup perfectly applied, even though she was legally blind. This was the day she was moving into a nursing home. Her husband of 70 years had recently passed away, and she needed the support only such a facility could provide. This lovely, gracious, and dignified woman waited patiently in the lobby until her room was ready. As she maneuvered her walker to the elevator, her aide gave her a visual description of the tiny room, down to the color of the eyelet curtains that had been freshly hung on the window. I love it, she said. And the aide responded, Mrs. Jones, you haven't even seen it yet. That has nothing to do with it, she said. Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It's how my mind is arranged. I decided already to love it. It's a decision I make every morning when I wake up. I have a choice. I can spend the day in bed recounting the difficulty I have with the parts of my body that no longer work, or I can get out of bed and be thankful for the ones that do. Old age is like a bank account. You withdraw from what you've put in. So my advice would be to deposit a lot of happiness in the bank account of memories. Each day is a gift, and as long as my eyes open, I'll focus on the new day and all the happy memories I've stored away just for this time in my life. So friends, Yom Kippur is toward its conclusion. This day has helped us with instructions on how to live. We can follow the example of others to live a more meaningful and a more enriching life. We can summon the strength and courage we have within to fulfill the life we want. Whatever time we have remaining, may we be true to ourselves. May we make every day a blessing. Amen.